I moved into a cheap hostel near my college during my second year because I couldn't afford an apartment anymore. The building was old, 3 floors, narrow hallways, chipped paint, and lighting that always flickered no matter how many times maintenance fixed it. Most of the residents were students like me, working night shifts or studying late. I was assigned room 317. The very last room on the 3rd floor. The first night, I noticed something strange. Every door along the hallway had small sounds, TVs, phone calls, laughter, footsteps. But when I reached the end of the hall, everything went silent. Like the sound just stopped existing. Room 317 had scratches around the lock. Not deep enough to be vandalism, but enough to notice. I assumed it was from someone forcing the door open once. The first few nights were normal, until I started waking up at exactly 3:17 a.m. every night. No alarm. No noise. Just awake. And every time, I felt like I wasn't alone. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, listening. That's when I started hearing footsteps outside my door. Slow. Bare. Shuffling. Always stopping right in front of my room. Never knocking. Never leaving. One night, I worked up the courage to open the door. The hallway was empty. But the carpet outside my room was slightly darker, like someone had been standing there for a long time. The next morning, I asked the guy across the hall if he'd been walking around at night. He looked confused. "No one lives in that room anymore," he said. I laughed, assuming he meant someone moved out. "No," he clarified. "No one's lived there for years." That night, I didn't sleep. At 3:17 a.m., the footsteps came again. But this time, they didn't stop. They paced. Back and forth. Back and forth. Then came a whisper. So soft I barely heard it. "Let me in." I froze. The door handle slowly turned. It didn't open, just tested. Then the whisper came again. "You're in my room." I moved out the next morning. A week later, I checked old hostel reviews online. One review from years ago mentioned room 317, saying the previous occupant was found dead inside after locking himself in for days. Cause of death? Severe dehydration. They said he was afraid to leave the room. I stayed in a shared hostel during an internship in another city. For beds. 1 small room. 3 strangers. Everyone seemed normal, except the guy in the bunk above mine. His name was Arjun. He never slept. At least, I never saw him sleep. Every night, after lights out, I'd hear him climb down from his bunk and stand beside my bed. I assumed he was going to the bathroom. But he never walked away. He just stood there. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. The first time I opened my eyes and saw his shadow inches from my face, I nearly screamed. "Sorry," he whispered. "Didn't mean to wake you." But it kept happening. Night after night. Always standing. Always watching. I asked him once why he didn't sleep. He smiled faintly. "I do," he said. "Just not when others are." Things escalated when I woke up one night unable to move. Sleep paralysis, I told myself. But I could see him. Sitting on my chest. Not touching me, just crouched there, balancing perfectly. Staring down. He whispered something I'll never forget. "You breathe loud when you dream." The paralysis broke when someone turned on the lights. Arjun wasn't there. The next day, I confronted my other roommates. They exchanged looks. "There's no Arjun," one of them said quietly. "That bed's been empty since you arrived." I packed my things and went to the reception. They confirmed it. No one named Arjun was registered. When I returned to grab the rest of my stuff, his bunk was gone. but carved into the underside of my bed frame was a sentence, scratched deep into the wood. I watched you first. My hostel had a basement that students were told not to enter. Management claimed it was used for storage and old maintenance equipment. One night, during a power outage, the emergency lights flickered on, except near the stairwell leading down. That's when I noticed the basement door was slightly open. I don't know why I went down there. Curiosity, I guess. The air was colder the further I went. The lights barely worked. The walls were concrete, stained with something dark and sticky. I heard voices. Soft. Muffled. Whispering from behind the walls. I thought maybe homeless people were hiding down there. Then I saw the doors. Small metal doors. Like lockers. Each one numbered. Each one locked from the outside. One of them was shaking. Something inside was banging weakly. Help, a voice whispered. I ran. I didn't tell anyone. The next morning, the basement door was welded shut. 2 days later, police cars surrounded the hostel. The news reported illegal detention rooms used by the former owner years ago. They said the basement had been sealed for over a decade. But I know what I heard. And sometimes, late at night, I still hear knocking beneath the floor. I moved into the hostel during my second year of college because rent near campus was insane. The place was old, not historic cute old, but neglected old. Cracked tiles, flickering lights, doors that never closed all the way. It was one of those buildings where sound traveled too easily. You could hear coughing from 3 rooms away. My room had 4 beds, but when I arrived, only one was occupied, mine. The other 3 beds were empty. Clean. Made. Like someone had just stepped out. The manager, a tired-looking woman in her late 40s, handed me my key and said, "You're lucky. Quiet room." That should have been a good thing. The first night was fine. Too quiet, actually. No music, no talking, no footsteps in the hallway. I fell asleep around 2 a.m. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Slow. Heavy. Right across the room. I opened my eyes and stared into the darkness. The bed across from me was still empty. No movement. No shadow. I told myself it was coming from another room. But the breathing stayed perfectly in sync with the empty bed. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. I didn't sleep after that. The next day, I asked one of the guys down the hall if someone had moved out recently. He looked confused. That bed, he said. No one's been assigned there since last semester. That night, the breathing came back. This time, it was closer. I could feel it. Then the mattress across from me creaked, like someone shifting their weight. The bed dipped. Slowly. I turned on my phone flashlight. The bed was empty. But the sheets were indented. Like someone invisible was lying there. I packed my things and slept in the common area that night. The next morning, the manager pulled me aside. "You didn't sleep in your room," she said. I asked how she knew. She hesitated, then said quietly, "Because the camera outside your room picked up movement." I asked her what kind. She swallowed. Someone walking in, and no one walking out. I moved out that same day. 2 weeks later, a student was found dead in that room, no signs of struggle, no cause of death. Just one detail the police couldn't explain. All 4 beds were indented. The 4th floor showers were always empty. That's what everyone said. The hostel had 5 floors, but for some reason, no one liked using the 4th floor bathrooms. They were cleaner than the others, newer even, but people avoided them without being able to explain why. I found out why during finals week. It was around 1:30 a.m. I needed a shower badly, and every other floor was packed. I figured people were just being dramatic. I took my towel and went up. The hallway was silent. No voices. No footsteps. Just the hum of the lights. The bathroom door was unlocked. Inside, steam hung in the air like someone had just finished showering. I hesitated. Then I heard water running, one stall, far corner. I assumed someone was still inside. I went to the opposite stall, turned on the water, and started washing. That's when I heard sniffing. Quiet. Like someone trying not to cry. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" The sniffing stopped. Then I heard slow footsteps on wet tile. Not toward the exit. Toward me. I froze behind the curtain. A shadow appeared under the stall divider. It stopped right in front of mine. Then came the sound of fingers tapping on the metal wall. 1, 2, 3. Right next to my head. I yanked the curtain open. No one was there. But the floor was soaked, puddles everywhere, leading straight to my stall. And stopping there. I ran. The next morning, I told the front desk. The man working there didn't look surprised. He just said, "We closed that floor's showers after an incident." I asked what incident. He leaned closer and whispered, "A student drowned." I laughed nervously. "In a shower?" He shook his head. "No. In a locked stall. With no water running." I moved hostels the next week. Months later, I met a girl who used to live there. She told me something that still keeps me awake. "People here crying because she's still waiting," she said. "Waiting for someone to open the curtain."